It's time to get some SportSense. You're gonna get some SportSense. You better get ready for SportSense. SportSense.
Welcome back to SportSense, everyone. This is the show where we break down sports news for sports noobs. I'm Cooper Epps, here to learn about sports and sports culture from my dad, James Epps. Let's get into it. All right. Hey, we got Dad back in the house. Welcome back, Dad. How you doing?
Thanks, buddy. Good. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
I missed you on this format here. Our chance to communicate.
This is the only time we talk. This is probably our main catch up, but we used to do this and we weren't even recording. So now the world gets to benefit from our weekly catch ups. You're welcome, world.
Slice of the world anyway.
Yeah. We're working on our slice. And in fact, I think we probably have a couple new listeners here this week who I mentioned, I watched the basketball championship for the podcast, and you have a podcast, and we're excited to tune in and see what this is all about. So welcome any newcomers. If you are new here, you heard the little intro, but yeah, this was born out of a seed of, I don't know a seed of what, but it was born out of me running into so many conversations at working with my in-laws and feeling like such a dang fool because I didn't know what the heck was going on in sports culture.
And I thought about that. You should never have felt like a fool because think of your interests. So it's no different me walking in and me feeling foolish because I don't know the 8,000 different fonts there are. I've seen you with a book that's 4 inches thick just about fonts. Yeah. Now, I don't feel foolish. I feel like overwhelmed by that thought, or I feel like with Cooper, is he trying to kill me with an early death if he made me read that whole book or something? I'd have those thoughts probably more. So you shouldn't feel that way. That's just not your interest or your expertise. But anyway, but I understand. I like your original premise. Hey, you want to at least have enough to chit chat and be part of the clan, at least the family. Yeah. Discussions.
And not to be nitpicky, but there are 8,000 fonts is a little bit of an underestimate.
Underestimate? Oh my gosh. How many fonts are there?
Yeah, do you really? There's probably, fonts are like songs or bands. They're like, there's gotta be millions. There's probably millions.
How could there be millions of fonts? Your letter can't look but so many differences in the English. If you're talking about all languages, I guess, but English language.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not considering other languages. That might even make it bigger.
Shoot, I made it bigger.
Just out of curiosity, ask Google AI. Okay, see, now I'm overestimating. How many fonts are in existence? No exact count, but estimates suggest there are 200,000 to 600,000 individual fonts.
All right.
Then you got to consider, okay, when we say font, do we mean like Helvetica and every single? Yeah, say we're getting too crazy.
Okay,
but bold
I'm
and
sorry.
extra.
Here, I am so sorry I brought this up. Let's see. All right, let's move on. But let's say that I way underestimated, but I didn't underestimate the thickness of that book or over it. That's about what it is.
I've got a bunch of books, so we'll go down that rabbit hole another time.
All right,
I've got
do that when you have a guest on here that wants to talk about fonts.
I will say,
you've made me appreciate it. I told Mom before. It's weird that now I go around. Cooper's kind of ruined it for me. I'll look at signage and think, yeah, that's this or that looks different. I don't know any names, but I know that's different. That's a different font.
That's hilarious. Cool. You guys haven't even watched the documentary Helvetica. That will blow your mind if you watch that. I'm telling you, that's not just for nerds. That went mainstream because so many people were like, wow, I can't believe that.
I'm making note right now. Watch Hell.
Yeah. Hell.
Oh, no, not Hell. Helvetica.
All right.
Helvetica. I got it. All right.
You're gonna you'll scribble it out. All right. I know you want to get to the sports. I do.
Yeah. You already wasted 4 minutes. Let's go. We got to go. You gave us the clock tonight.
Yeah, I did. But I'll factor that in when my timer goes off. So, yes, it is. Let's get back to the sports. This is season 2, episode 33. Which means we're more than well over halfway towards season 3, which will start this fall when football kicks back up again. But we just
good
knocked
old
out
football. Good old football.
I know. You just
already thinking about the
salivate over
NFL
that.
draft. Oh, I've been listening to NFL stuff all day, every day a little bit. NFL draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Always news. In fact, there's one NFL thing I'll just throw out later just for kicks and see if you've heard of it, but we won't talk about it long. But yeah, speaking of just kind of wrapping up sports, we are knocking another sport off the chart this week, which is college basketball. So we just got all the way through another season of another sport. And, before we dig into what happened there, the conclusion of the season, just wanted to mention that we're about to dig into baseball, which just started back up, and hockey, which is just coming to its epic conclusion for the year. So pretty soon we'll be in the dog days of summer. Yes, we'll have baseball, but we don't. You know what I'd rather talk about this summer instead of baseball is we've got some cool history lessons coming up, and just some cool niche things that you maybe have wondered about but never thought to ask or Google. So there's some exciting stuff. We're going to keep it coming at you this summer. But Dad, let's get into this epic conclusion of college basketball. Tell us about what happened over the week in the Final Four and how that all shaped up.
Well, the winners that came out, all of a sudden I'm going to blank who they all play, but Michigan and UConn were in the national championship game. So that was Monday night. It's last night. And UConn, I would say UConn got there. I really felt like Duke was a better team, but Duke, you remember how they kind of stepped on the banana peel and at the end of their game and went overtime and gave it away as far as I'm concerned. Duke, I still say was a better team, better athletically, better talented. But UConn, I'm saying this about UConn to show their path to the championship game was so different than Michigan's. Michigan's path was complete dominance and obliteration. Like their first 3 games, they won by a total of 110 points, something crazy like that. UConn scratched, clawed, especially last couple games. They really scratched and clawed. And of UConn's, they've won 2 national championships in the last 4 years. They had one team, I think they had 4 of their starting 5, like 3 or 4 years ago that were drafted in the NBA draft. So they've had, This was their least talented team, but boy, I'd say it was about their most scrappy team. And I think scrappy follows after their coach, Dan Hurley. So number one, Michigan won 69-63. Now Michigan, I felt like should have beaten them by quite a bit more, but this turned into, and if I can describe it, okay, here's some words. I heard a couple of these descriptions on the talk shows, this first one, and then the other is the words that I had when I was watching it last night, the things that came to mind. But one guy called it a rock fight. That's what the game was last night, a rock fight. I called it an absolute brawl. And here are the reasons why. Because it looked like the refs were allowing, for the most part, hand checking, putting your hand on them, pushing, shoving, grabbing, pushing, elbowing. It was an all-out brouhaha. I mean, it looked like a drunken bar fight at times. It really did. I could not believe how physical the refs allowed. So that's my big takeaway, my message tonight. I don't understand how exactly reffing. We had this whole segment on reffing. This is the prime example of refs, I believe, making a determination, not to the benefit of either team, but kind of making a determination of the type of teams they had. Either they could call it picky and foul everybody out, in a national championship game, or let them go at it on both sides and because they're both super physical teams. Connecticut, UConn, was super physical in a scrappy way. Smaller team. Michigan, bigger. Their front 3 big men on the floor at the same time. All 3 of them, before they all transferred, which we're going to talk about the makeup of their team in a second, before they all transferred, were all centers on their not centers like SINNERS.
Yeah.
They were good guys, I'm sure. Centers, CENTERS. But the way I talk sometimes it sounds the same. But centers, they were all the centers on their prior team.
They're all big men, yeah.
All big men. But the centers themselves, not forward, but centers. And then they come here and they all 3 the coaches figure out a way to piece those pieces together and play together. So they were just giant, right? They were just giant, big and strong. And UConn did. So UConn, it's kind of like if you see a bar fight or brawl, an alley fight. You see a guy who's short and stocky and about 5'8" come across a 6'2" cut dude that's got all the martial arts. I mean, that's what it looked like the game was going to be like. And the UConn team knew they had to drag their opponent down into their, into the brawl in the alley, right? For them to have a chance. I mean, I know Dan Hurley's smart. He's won national championship, and he knew he didn't have the talent that he'd had before. He knew his team didn't have near the talent that Michigan had. So he's going to take this to its lowest common denominator. And that's just a brutal fight, and hope that Michigan couldn't make free throws, things like that. So here's some interesting, are you ready for the breakdown a little bit, just numbers. It's shocking.
Yeah, but I want to call out one guy. Did you see the one ref they were calling high knees?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know they called him that, but I saw him run back a couple times. High knee in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it literally looked like he was like warming up for a 5K. He was doing high knees up and down the court.
All I thought is that guy is fleet of foot. I mean, he looked like he was springy.
He was lively.
Right in the middle of the game, too. That was the funny part. Right in the middle, running back down the court. I saw it one time perfectly clear. That's funny. High knees. So anyways, that's what it looked like he was doing.
He was one of the highlights for a lot of people. Yeah, just doing high knees up and down the court. Okay.
Well, I had to say, my point about the refs, I think they made the right decision, because the nature of this game was going to be what it ended up being. And yes, I think if UConn had to have, if they started calling it tight, and meaning every kind of foul on UConn and now they called a lot more fouls on UConn because UConn fouled them a ton more. But if they had called it really tight and UConn players, their starting lineup got in foul trouble quickly, that game probably could have been a blowout by 30 points.
Yeah.
So I do believe there was some predetermination. I don't know if the NCAA,
by the refs,
I don't know who has the say in that, but I think there's no doubt, because I saw grabs and holds and shoves that I was just I said, where's the whistle? This is crazy. Anyway, so here's a couple of numbers that's shocking to me. Michigan, by the way, ended up, and I think they were no doubt the best team in the country this year in the college ranks. Division I won the championship. That's not always the case. You could have a bad game in the tournament and get bounced, but by far Michigan was the best team. They went 37-3. And they just dominated so many of the teams they played. So I'm really comfortable.
I hate to interrupt you again, but why didn't you pick them? Like, did you not see how good they were when we first started the bracket challenge?
Yeah, just looking at the brackets, I didn't follow them much this year. I just saw their size. And I really thought their size could be mitigated by really good three-point shooting and fast breaks. I really thought there were some teams who athletically could run past them.
Okay.
I really did.
Cool.
But that was bad guessing on my part. So, but I'm saying in the end, I think it was pretty clear they were the best team in the country. So I feel
cool.
They
brutalized everybody in the championship.
Yeah. I mean, they proved it. That's what I'm trying to say. They proved it. There's no lucky ball bounce at all for these guys. In fact, they played offensively, and this is a product of the way UConn played them, and the refs allowed UConn. I'll keep going back to that. Allow them to play them. But here, get this. I know a team's never won national championship, especially since there's been 3-pointers who shot 13% from 3-point land. They made only 2 of 15.
Whoa.
That's Michigan, the winning team.
Wow.
And their overall shooting percentage was only 38%. But UConn doubled they shot 9 for 33, but only 27%. So UConn had to be shooting around the 40%, 38 to 40% range on threes. So that's interesting. But here's really the difference of the game. So UConn only lost by 6 points, right? Remember I talked about here's the difference in free throws. Now, UConn didn't do bad, but UConn went to the line only 16 times. But that's because that's the way Michigan played. They didn't have to foul them all. They just went above them. Did you see how many block shots there were? I mean, they were slapping their mess back everywhere with good blocks. So UConn didn't do bad, 75% shooting, 12 for 16 from the free throws. But Michigan got to the line 28 times and made 25 of them.
Wow.
So they were 89% free throw shooting. So think about that. They got 13 more points from the free throw line than UConn, and they only won by 6. So
Wow.
clearly they won the game from the free throw line. So if they'd been ice cold or had problems from the free throw line, UConn's strategy would have paid off big dividends. They would have probably won. But Michigan,
that was the gamble of their coach.
Who shoots 25 of 28? Honestly, that was pretty.
Is that pretty hot? Unusually hot?
89, almost 90% for a team free throw shooting. Yes. There's very rarely a single player that shoots 89 to 90%. There's only a few in the country that shoot that high percentage for a season.
That's interesting that the shooting throughout the game was so terrible, but their free throws were so
well. Again, they're shooting. Here's my opinion on that. They were getting fouled while they were shooting. It wasn't being called every time. They were getting muscled up. They were sliding under them. They were shoving them. They were pushing their hips. They were doing all the things you do. I tell you what, it looked like a lot of my old man tricks in the day, playing. You can see them pushing their left hip or right hip with the free hand, put one hand up on the ball and the other hand's on their lower body somewhere pushing that shooter. They did everything. They shoved them. They pushed them. Anyway. So that to me, absolutely was a different game. But I told you, man, if they didn't let them play rough and tumble and physical, I'm not sure. I think it would have been a massive blowout. I really do. I wrote under all this. I wrote on this, it was fun kind of, but it was capital UGLY. If you love pretty basketball, it was ugly basketball. A couple of things to remember. This is Michigan's first title in 37 years and only their second title ever. So this is, Mom and I went on our walk this morning. We have a neighbor that moved in a few years ago, and they're Michigan fans. And boy, they had their Michigan flag out this morning by their mailbox. So pretty exciting. Anyway, interesting enough, there's only 3 members of the 2025 team of Michigan. It's not that unusual, but 12 new guys were on the team, and all these starters were brand new to each other. To have that many different players, what was the secret sauce of coach to be able to pull that off? Well, this coach, Dusty May. It all started as soon as they got him on their roster. Early summer, last summer, he had him over his house. He got this like a brick oven pizza truck to come, and they just did pizza and cornhole in his backyard of all the players. And that was their first. These guys had never met. 12 of the 15. Well, they knew each other a little bit competing in college, but they didn't know each other. They weren't friends. And that's how the guys are basically saying, hey, that's when it started. We just kind of became friends, and the coach let us have some fun. And this coach is a new breed because they say they feel like they do so well because they have the freedom. They just go, as one player said, they let us go out and just hoop. We can hoop. We're not tied down to sets and plays. We have a few, but we don't, they give us the freedom just to play. And apparently that's done well. So that's kind of that's my sideline reporting.
That was very good, very thorough, and makes me appreciate Michigan more. Man, yeah, I figured there had to be something special going on there for them to just absolutely demolish the competition all the way through the tournament. Like you said, it wasn't like UConn or Arizona or even Duke who slipped up and had mistakes and almost lost, and Duke did lose. They seemed unmistakably like the best the whole time. So, which I had no idea, when I made my bracket, which is why I finished in last place, which, just to give a quick bracket shout out. If you guys remember, I said we were going to have the loser on the podcast, and give them some...
how prophetic. You delivered that quickly.
I mean, I was not only the bottom, I was well below the bottom. I was like 460 points, and the next person had like 700 something. So, yeah, I did pretty poorly this year. But my wife, on the other hand, she won our bracket challenge this year.
Yep. Well done,
by a
Macy.
by a pretty good margin. She didn't even pick Michigan to win, but she did have UConn and Michigan in her final matchup, and so that got her tons of points. And she took the lead. So way to go.
Well done.
And we really, I've been meaning to have her on, but she's been shy. Speaking of the ladies, we're going to start transitioning to a couple of our final topips here. So we did,
and I've got a couple to slide in there. So just be quick.
Okay. Yeah. Just jump in.
Go
whatever.
ahead. No, let's do the women's.
We're going to call that a wrap on men's college basketball for this year. So congrats to Michigan. and to my brother-in-law who's a Michigan fan for some reason. That doesn't make sense. Okay. Women's basketball. We didn't follow them super closely, so apologies if any of you guys are big women's basketball fans. I think we'll come around to that. You've made some interesting comments about that in the past, and in a positive way, right, Dad? That you've talked about how technically skilled women's basketball is, and seems like, from the highlights I've seen, their style is almost prettier than maybe like generally than what you mentioned in the Michigan game last night. It's a little bit more technically proficient and beautiful. I've seen some beautiful shots and highlights recently. So anyways, I'm kind of curious. I do want to learn about women's basketball more soon, but sorry, that's a tangent. We're bringing this up to say that UCLA was the champion this year in women's college basketball. They crushed South Carolina to claim their first ever NCAA championship. So,
which is mind-boggling that they crushed them by that much. I honestly, so you got to go back just one game. The real fireworks of the tournament was the semifinal game against South Carolina and UConn. Remember, UConn was, I don't know if you remember, we briefly hit on this one time. They were in the middle of a 53, I think, game winning streak since last year. And he's won. Yeah, Gino Auriemma has won. It's something crazy. I can't remember now, 20 something national championship. I mean, it's unheard of. And the two top teams have been South Carolina and UConn, and they have there is no love lost there at all. But anyway, it was a crazy frenetic game, and they ended up, UConn lost by 14 points. And I guess he's getting old and extra crazy, but he went off on the South Carolina coach, and he's had to apologize. That was a big stinking mess.
Shoot.
But so I did not expect UCLA. I was afraid I won't go into why I feel this way, but I didn't want South Carolina to win a thing. I really didn't want UConn to win a thing on the women's. Believe me, you know how I don't love to talk about it, but I know plenty. And UCLA, I love that they won, but I didn't expect them to crush South Carolina. I don't even know how that happened. But just note that was mega. That was quite the breaking up of the old guard. This is another example of NIL. This is where NIL is helping spread to other teams, and it's taking a little longer in the women's game, but it's happening in the women's game too, where you get other teams that we hadn't heard of in a while destroy and win the whole tournament and push UConn and South Carolina aside, which I think is a beautiful thing. All right, that's it for that.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, yeah, just for the record, in my Googling, I did see that UCLA women's ball had won a tournament, but it was like before it was like an NCAA thing. I can't remember what they called it. It was like Athletic Women's League or something. Yeah. Whatever it was before NCAA for women's basketball, they did win a championship back then in like the 70s. Either way, this is their first ever NCAA championship and first in a very long time as far as championships go. So congrats to them. Speaking of NIL, so if you're a newcomer or whatever, NIL refers to the fact that college players basically get paid like professionals now. Like they're getting millions of dollars, up to millions of dollars, because of they can get brand deals. There's no cap on what colleges can pay them, right? Am I describing that right, Dad?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure what the letters NIL mean, but anyways,
it represents name, image, and likeness.
That's what it is. Okay. Because anyway, so we can come back to that another day, but that's all you need to know for this conversation. So I did want to mention briefly, because we need to go do some more research about this and come back to you. But you may have seen in the headlines recently that Trump signed an executive order, whatever order, to quote
executive
stabilize college sports. So anyways, you've kind of been a proponent for NIL, right, Dad?
But
you like how it's
some
kind
sort of yes, definitely.
It's upset the status quo a little bit.
Just that and the transfer portal, that combo. You need. I did feel like it needs a few guardrails, just a few, not many, but a little bit of little guardrails to help. But anyway, yeah.
So it seems like
we'll come back to that.
Yeah, like this order isn't going to be gospel. It's like it's going to start off a series of what you said this before we started recording, lawsuits and compromises and stuff like that.
Yeah, ideas and other ways in which maybe they can accomplish some of these goals that he put his team put forth. Yeah.
but it has kind of seemed for the past couple years since this change has been made that the rich just keep getting richer, and like whoever has the most money wins the tournaments. And so although
that's what's been
hasn't
interesting. Yeah, right. That's been
like Indiana with the football championship, like that wasn't true, right? But like, so I know there's the exceptions, but anyways, point being is this is going to be a large talking point in the sports world for the coming months. So we wanted to go ahead and introduce it. We're going to do some homework and kind of keep tabs on it and get back to you on that. But that was in connection with what you were saying about NIL and UCLA. Yep. I wanted to mention that. Okay. Dad, I've only got one more bit of news, but did I miss anything with basketball before we move on?
Nope, through with basketball.
Okay, well, we're signing off. Well, I guess we do still have basketball this year because we still have the NBA finals coming up.
Yeah,
what, in a month
we'll touch
or so?
on that.
Yeah, so we'll get to NBA in a
quicker
little
than
bit.
that. The finals, yes, but the playoffs will start here, I think, in a week or 10 days. Yeah.
Sorry, that's how in my mind, the finals meant all the playoffs, but yeah, the playoffs. So we'll get back to you on NBA and start to paint a picture of what's going on there. Okay, the craziest bit of sports news though from the past week, and from what I'm getting a sense of, and to confirm or deny that, Dad, is that there's a player who plays on the Angels. So we're going to baseball, MLB. So there's a player named Jo Adell who plays for the Angels, Los Angeles Angels. No, who's
correct?
Where are the Angels?
They're the Los Angeles Angels now. Yep.
And there we go. I pulled that from the archives. So he did what was called robbing 3 home runs. He robbed 3 home runs in one game. Dad, could you define for us what that means and the significance of that stat?
Yeah, so it's only going to be an outfielder that can do this, and he plays right field for the Angels. They were playing against the Seattle Mariners, and what makes this even crazier is that the game finished 1-0. So each one of these robbed home runs, which I'll explain, saved either a game-tying home run or a game-winning home run, which is even more pressure. It's not like this game was 12-8 or 9 or something, home runs scored, and he snuck 3 in there with something like that. This was a 1-0 win. So 0 had to be the number if you wanted to win, and that's what they did. So it's winning outfit. It's going to be a long drive, a long pop-up, right? A long hit that's in the air, and it's going to go over the fence. And a player, they've got the fence, the height where the best of the best players who've got lots of, think of the guy, a baseball player that can sky and slam dunk a basketball. That's how high these guys are jumping. And some of them plant a foot on the fence if they can on that pad, and they can push up and get higher. And they push up, they get up, and their glove is over the fence. It's got to be above the height of the fence.
Yeah, what would have been a home run?
What would have been a home run, they catch it and bring it back, and that's a robbed home run. So his first 2 were very similar. They looked a lot alike in the normal field of play. And the last one, so he got one in like the first inning or second inning. Then the second one was in the 8th inning. The next one was in the 9th inning with a game on the line again.
Wow.
And it was he plays right field, so it was down right field line. So there's a big pole out there right at the end of the right field line that if the ball goes on the left side of the pole, it's a home run. If it goes on the right side of the pole, it's foul. So he's racing, and he's in that corner, and it's on the left side. He skies again, and it's in this one case, because it's right there on that corner, it's a much lower fence portion before it stair steps up. Okay. He jumps, catches it, and at his hip, it flips him over into the first row of the spectators.
No way.
And he stands up. Jo Adell stands up and shows he's got the ball, and the player's out. Because if he catches it doesn't matter if he goes outside the field of play. If he catches it, it's an out. So to have his third one be that dramatic, probably one of the greatest ones of all time, but that is his third one of the game. Now, this, as far as historians have noted, and that I'm reading from Fox Sports to ESPN, is that this is the first game in baseball history that you had one single player rob 3 home runs. In fact, I had heard on another station that no team had ever done that in one single game, but I couldn't find that when I was looking that up. But for sure, it's the first time a former player. So there's a former player, you wouldn't know him, but Torrey Hunter. I think he played for Minnesota for a long time, but he was a Gold Glove. They get an award, a Gold Glove, at the end of the year in Major League Baseball if that's your best defensive players at your position. Okay. And Torrey Hunter was a 9-year Golden Glover, right, outfielder, and he's a bench coach for I think he is for the Angels. He said, the quote is, probably the greatest defensive game I've ever seen. In fact, he said after the third one, he jumped up so hard he about passed out. He was so excited. And I just thought, wow, that says a lot from a 9-season Golden Glover who said that. And they just said there's no question about it. So if you haven't seen, I would encourage you to go just Google it, especially the last. They'll have it in a little montage, all three, but watch that last one. It is really something. Yeah,
that sounds epic. Yeah, flipping over the fence as you catch the game-saving home run.
Yes,
hit. That's
and
crazy.
Jo Adell said when they interviewed him, he said, I just watched the ball go in my glove, and I didn't. And he said, next time I was flipped, my feet were in the air. He said, but I landed on the first row in the fans' lap. He says it was a very soft. Hang on, connecting.
Oh,
hang on.
I hear
There you go. He said it was a very soft landing. Because he landed in all the fans' laps and they picked him up and he jumped over.
That's awesome.
I love that quote. It was a very soft landing.
I thought you were implying that he was calling some of the fans fat.
But no.
They cradled him to safety. Okay.
Yes. I mean, he didn't have to hit anything hard or metal or seat. He just landed in their laps. So that's a lot of fun.
Okay.
So that's that story. Pretty great. I've got two more little things. When you let me.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, this is just little. So one, I'm not even going to say much on, except I'm telling you, you talking about how you hit worldwide news and hit your world too. I'm sure this had to come across your feed, one of your feeds. And I'm not making comment on it other than I'm not a big fan, especially in this case, because I think his behavior has been atrocious for 20 plus years. Tiger Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I'll say about that. Fourth time he's done this. The man's sick, and also he's not very bright. The man should never drive again. Why he hasn't had a driver, who knows? He says it's because he wants his privacy, but did y'all touch on that last week?
We did touch on it last week, but I didn't know he personally wanted to drive himself around instead of have a driver. Which, I feel like at that level of wealth, you got to have a driver at that point. Relax.
Anyway,
relax in the back seat. Take a load off.
Yeah. But the positive part, forget that. I don't even care to talk about him much anymore. But what is exciting that maybe has passed your. So we have the very first of the golf majors this week. The one that's the most beautiful scenic on TV. Remember?
Which one?
What is it? Which one? Which is the most beautiful?
The Masters.
There you go.
Okay.
The Masters. Yeah.
And Augusta, Georgia, right?
Augusta, Georgia. Par 3 tournament starts tomorrow, which is the family fun day. And then Thursday, the Masters start. So I want to get that on everybody's agenda to keep an eye on, and we'll talk about it next week.
I've seen some people on social talk about that as the most, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, but people seem to revere it greatly. Like it's a very treasured golf tournament. Anyways, definitely one to pay attention to.
I think the majority of the players, if they had to win one major, I think that'd be their favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely branded as such. Yeah. If you win it, I'm a master of golf, baby.
Yeah.
That's how I would feel. Okay. Well, hey, I got to ask you one thing, Dad, before we sign off, because we got a mailbag entry.
Oh, yes. I'm ready.
So, yeah, you ready? Okay. So let me set it up. So this is from Chris, and this is from a pretty big sports influencer on Instagram right now, but I thought he posed an interesting question. So, Dad, I'm just going to ask you straight up, which group of tournaments would you keep if you could only keep one of these the rest of your life and you couldn't ever watch the other? Okay, so one group.
The rest of your life part is so painful in this
I know.
discussion.
Hey, we gotta make you give an answer here. So
I know.
So I hate to say gun to your head because that's a violent metaphor, but if you had to choose One
Yes.
group, Group A, has the Masters. Speaking of the Masters, MLB postseason, college football postseason playoffs, and the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we got golf, baseball, college football, and hockey there. Okay. In category B, you've got the NFL playoffs instead of college football. You've got March Madness, college basketball, NBA playoffs, and FIFA World Cup. So
Yeah.
if you had to pick a group to set aside, never watch again, and one that you would keep the rest of your life, if you had to pick, what would you go with?
Just so you know, in both groupings, there's two that I love in each one. You know what I mean? That I just can't live without and prefer. This is brutal. I glanced at this earlier when you sent it. I mean, this is brutal because I could care less about FIFA. I could care less really about NBA. But on the one side, you do have the NFL and what was it? Something else I care about. NFL,
March Madness.
Major League Baseball. Oh, March Madness. There you go.
Oh, so yeah, NFL and March Madness with those other two that you don't care for.
Yeah, right. So that's got those two, and then the other side is the NFL,
Masters, baseball, college football, and hockey.
I'd say A, and that hurts, but
yeah,
because I like all of those pretty much.
Yeah, because all of those you're a bigger fan of.
Yeah,
it
hurts to give up the NFL though.
NFL. Yeah, that's like your primo.
I know, but you talk about the rest of my life, and I get the four, I get to at least have football in there, right? I could have college football. That's still pretty
at least
good.
have college football. So you'd rather have four that you mostly like than to have
the one
two
that
that you really like and two that you hate or disregard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Well, that was easier than I thought you were going to be a little bit more tormented, but
I've been tormented. I looked at it 2 hours ago, so you tormented me pretty good.
Because I mean, to play devil's advocate, you have said that NFL takes up the whole year. They keep your attention the whole year. So
but who says I couldn't keep up with it? You said I couldn't watch the
playoffs of all of these. Yeah, I guess these we are talking about playoffs.
Now I'm doing semantics. I'm splitting hairs with you.
Well, I'm glad. I thought you were gonna kind of shoo away the Stanley Cup playoffs in Group A because you're not as big of a hockey fan. But
but I would, over FIFA, it's a way better. Yeah. I mean, I might. You ask me next week, I might change my mind because I like the NFL so much. But you got to remember, college too, I can watch all of it and go to a lot of those games. Where NFL, I don't go to a game on Sunday. Therefore, and there are no close teams other than Charlotte. So I don't have access to like going to the physical games. So would love to go to a championship games or the playoff games one day with college. And I feel like I have more access to that. So I still would stick to that side, I think.
All right. I honestly, I would too. I agree with you.
I figured you would because of the hockey. I thought that would.
For sure. But it is tough. NFL, I mean, that's what they're making it hard by putting NFL over there.
Sure.
And March Madness. I will say last year when we talked about March Madness, I really wasn't sold. But this year, I think it's because BYU helped get me into it a round or two. And actually, no, they got eliminated first game. So I can't.
Yes, they did. So let's keep talking. Let's move on.
But that did get me. That did get me a little bit. I will say I started to like college basketball a bit more this year. So you did good. You did get work on me there.
All right, good.
Okay, well, we'll call that a day. So we're going to come back next couple months. We are going to keep you guys updated on NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and golf is getting started. So we'll talk a little bit about golf just so you know can know a couple of the main characters there. I'm missing one. What else did we talk about?
I don't know. I'm going to be talking NFL and NFL drafts.
There's still NFL stuff going on. But we're going to get into a little bit of we've been so focused on March Madness for the past month.
Did you say Major League Baseball? That's
baseball. That's the other one. Yeah. So we're going to get into a little bit more mixed bag style episodes again, just some of the bigger headlines. And as things quiet down a little bit, even after that, like I said, we're going to have some pretty cool content, get some cool guests on this summer to talk just some history and like go do a little bit of story time. That's what I really want. I want some good story time, Dad. So get ready. Keep an eye out on some of those 30 for 30 documentaries and stuff. And yeah, get your storytelling hat on for us.
All right, we'll do.
Okay. All right.
Got it.
Well, thank you all if you tuned into this far, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Dad.
Right. See you, buddy.
Love you.
Love you.
For SportSense.